talking with Arthur Clarke. I always want to call you Sir Arthur Clarke because there is a Sir Arthur Clarke, and I had a note I made about something I wanted to ask you about, and I can't find where it is. So I'll get quickly off this subject, but UFOs are on the wane, it seems. We hear nothing about those anymore. Did you ever run across anything in the whole literature of UFO sightings that you thought might be the real thing?
I once saw what I thought was the real thing.
Did you?
And oddly enough, it was with Stanley Kubrick the night we decided to make 2001. We were in New York, and we saw, late in the night, a brilliant star right over New York, and apparently, I'll hit the microphone, I'm not careful, and apparently come to a stop over the center of the city. And I first thought it was the Echo satellite, of course, which can't stop, but I guess that was an optical illusion. And we tried to check up on that, and it said no Echo satellite transit that night. And we thought we'd limited every possibility, and it was a very weird feeling, I can tell you. And to cut a long story short, eventually it turned out to be the Echo satellite. But the point is, I was fooled myself once, so having been to this, that's why I'm very skeptical.
Hey, what made it seem to stop then?
Well, it's very hard in a clear sky, to, a high angle, to tell whether an object is moving or not. If you bend your neck up and look at the sky, you can easily convince yourself that a star is moving, and alternatively that an airplane or anything light high up there is stationary when it's not, because there are no reference points. And this was a bright moonlit night, so there were very few other stars to give any reference points in the sky. I've since seen much more convincing UFOs. So having been through this several times, that's why I'm very, very skeptical.
Are you holding out doubt? Would it please you if we had been observed by other planets? Would it excite you?
Well, I think it's very likely we have been in the remote past in billions of years that lie behind. But if anything did the sort of things that UFOs have been reported as doing, landing and people coming out of them, that couldn't keep going on indefinitely without a proof one way or the other.
Yeah.
That's why I don't believe in contacts with UFOs. I think that's all misinterpretations.
Have you ever run across this rumor that, I mentioned it once on television before, we got a certain amount of mail about it, that insiders know that at a certain Air Force base in a certain country, a certain state in this country, in a refrigerated drawer, they have 4 humanoid bodies about 4 feet long that landed in something, and they just think it would be too scary for the public to know about it until they could assess it. And so
this, of course, is utter raving nonsense. For one thing, it couldn't have been kept secret very long. I mean, all the people who were involved in that, I know that most of the top space people, and they wouldn't have kept it quiet this long because NASA appropriation would be very different if this was true.
Yeah, I guess it would. They'd be right out there to find out.
They certainly would.
Hey, are you writing science fiction now still?
I'm glad you asked me that, Senator. I've just finished a new novel I've been working on very hard, and that's why I'm still here in this country. In fact, I would have gone back to Ceylon about a month ago, but I got in a writing jag, and I just finished a new novel, and I'm going to forget it for a while and revise it in the next few months.
I'm always interested in a scientist. Is it correct to refer to you as a scientist? Because really you decided to be a writer, didn't you, even though you're qualified in science?
I have a science degree, but I've never done any scientific research, so it's more accurate to call me a science writer.
I always wonder how a scientist, a man of science, let's say, make it more general term, how do they feel about the unintellectual things like love and death?
Same as anybody else does.
And all of that. Now, what do you think happens when you die?
I think you go out like a candle.
Yeah?
Yes, but time may be more complex, and it may be possible to recover the past in some ways. So I wouldn't absolutely rule out the possibility that personalities might be recovered, even if, they are, even if there's no survival in the religious sense. It has been suggested that we might be able to reconstruct the past one day, even the people who lived in the past. There's a subtle distinction between this and immortality. It'd be a fantastic technical achievement, and I have no idea how it could be done, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. But otherwise, I don't believe in immortality or survival.
You don't expect to be conscious in any way beyond the moment of mortality?
No, because we know our minds and our feelings and our emotions are so intimately linked with what happens to our bodies and what goes on in here that it seems, inconceivable that they do survive any more than that a symphony survives after you burn up the gramophone record or the tape, you see. In what sense could you say that that recording survived after the physical structure in which bore it was destroyed? If you can show me a convincing way of saying that a tape recording can still survive after you burn the tape, and I'll discuss the possibility of personal survival after the body's destroyed.
Well, a candle going out is just as good,
Yes,
I suppose.
yeah.
Except actually, it turns into a gas, doesn't it? So that survives in some way, and the candlestick itself
Yes,
still
but
exists.
the flame, the pattern of the flame is gone. It's the pattern which is our personality, pattern of information, and that's gone.
But yet, don't you admit at times that there are things that are not explained scientifically? I mean, that things
yes.
like love or spiritual values, if you will allow that phrase, or something like that, that there's something that adds up beyond all the physical things you know about them, that is beyond that
Yes.
doesn't have anything to do with atoms and...
I hope there always will be, because it'll be very dull if you explain everything, and there'll be no point really in living any longer if there are no mysteries, no wonders, no new places to explore, no new ideas. And I think that there are many properties of the mind and the body which we don't yet know. Some of this work in biofeedback, the way controlling the body's mental process, the body's processes, that would have seemed fantasy only a few years ago. And now we know that we can do extraordinary things to the body. Have you ever seen fire walking? You know, walking on fire.
No.
It's a,
Well, I know what you mean. I've seen newsreels of it.
I filmed it once in Ceylon from very close quarters, and that's impressive to see people with their feet sinking into red-hot embers right up to the ankles, and without any harm. It's not a miracle, and anybody can do it if they have courage, but it's something which one wouldn't have believed possible until one saw it done.
Well, how do you explain it?
Well, first of all, contact is very brief. They only just momentary bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And they're covered with sweat. The water has been thrown over them before. And you can put your hand in molten lead. If you wash your hands in soap and soapy water, you can put them into molten lead.
Don't try it, boys
No,
and girls.
I wouldn't do it. But it is a trick which can be done. It's the briefness
For
of the
an
contact.
instant, you mean?
Yes, the
For an
briefness of the
instant.
contact and the fact there's a film of moisture. And of course, if they do burn themselves, they are in a religious trance, and they literally don't feel the burn, even if in fact they are burned.
But isn't this flesh destroyed then?
It may be a little, but I think there's a possibility too that under certain mental conditions, one could protect even the flesh to some extent from burning. We know that you can raise a burn by mental processes. People can actually make a burn appear.
Yes, I've seen a hypnotist take a cold lighter and
Yeah.
say this is red hot to a person under the, and touch them in the hand, and then a burn blister will come up later.
And we know that everybody in the television business burns holes in their stomach. I worry. Don't they? That's what an
4 or
ulcer
5
is.
of
That's
them
what an
have.
ulcer is, you see.
That's right,
In other
yeah.
words, the mind can control the body.
Thanks a lot. Well, okay, we must take a message. We'll be back.